FM, Iliabu Bale Oshibo. Time to bring you the world at noon.
Good afternoon, the world at noon. My name is Moturayo Ayigbayo. Nigeria signs MOU with Japanese to commence electric car manufacturing. Tanzania minister's son fined over reckless driving. Former Iran detainee to run race in London Marathon. Former heavyweight boxing champion accused of sexual abuse. The Nigerian government has signed a memorandum of understanding MOU with Israeli and Japanese companies to commence assembling and manufacturing of electric vehicles in Nigeria. The agreement was signed by the National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure in partnership with the Israeli, Japanese, and Nigerian companies in Abuja. The Israeli ambassador to Nigeria, Mr. Michael Freeman, said the partnership would help address the many challenges affecting the transport and environmental sectors in Nigeria. He added that it offers people a cheap way and safe way of transportation and even has a technology to ensure that the motorcycles are only used for legal and appropriate purposes, and also solves issues of fuel scarcity, green technology, and the need to provide cleaner, cheaper, easier transport. Executive Vice Chairman Senin Professor Mohammed Haruna said the project Nigeria will see to the manufacturing of Nigerian-made electric vehicles in the nearest future, as this is the attempt to domesticate certain technologies in Nigeria, especially in the automobile industry, has not worked with continuous importation. Meanwhile, California is to ban the sale of new petrol by 2035, marking a historic step in the state's attempt to tackle climate change. The new rules are aimed to force car makers to accelerate the introduction to the market of cleaner vehicles. It comes after Governor Gavin Newsom set a target in 2020 to speed up the shift away from fossil fuels. The move is important as California is the most populous state in the US and one of the world's biggest economies. Under the rules issued by the California Air Resources Board, 35% of new vehicles sold in the state must be electric, hybrid, or hydrogen-powered by 2026. The regulation will apply to 68% of vehicle sales by 2030 and 100% by 2035. The announcement is the latest move by California as it continues to move faster than the U.S. federal government to tighten emission rules. However, the American Fuel and Petrochemical Manufacturers Trade Association called on the U.S. President, Mr. Joe Biden, and the Environmental Protection Agency to reject California's request for a Clean Air Act waiver to proceed with its unlawful ban. The son of a Tanzanian state minister, James, has been fined after he was accused of ramming cars last week and allegedly bragging about his father's influence. Information has it that James, the son of George Stimpaltney, was fined for drunk and reckless driving of an uninsured vehicle. Report says he will pay a total of 250,000 Tanzania shillings for the offenses of reckless driving, driving under the influence of alcohol, and driving an uninsured vehicle. The 24-year-old was arrested after a video of the incident in Dar es Salaam went viral. His father asked the authorities to take full legal actions against him. The World Health Organization Director General has lamented that he was unable to send money to his starving relatives in Ethiopia's Tigray region. Dr. Tedros, as an ethnic Tigrayan, said the region has remained completely sealed off for 2 years since the beginning of the conflict, and people were suffering. The conflict, which began in November 2010, has led to the deaths of tens of thousands of civilians and left millions in need of food aid. The region has been without basic services such as electricity, telecommunications, and banking. Reports have said that fighting resumed this week after months of calm following the humanitarian truce agreed in March between Tigrayan forces and the Ethiopian government. This is the word at noon, coming to you from Osun State Broadcasting Corporation. Iliawiye Okebale Oshobo, Voice of the West. Now amid news message. Support the government of the state of Osun in all you do. Algerian president and his French counterpart, Mr. Emmanuel Macron, have agreed to open a new page in bilateral relations between their countries based on mutual respect and interest after nearly a year of escalating tensions. Following a meeting, Mr. Tebboune held a joint press conference with Mr. Macron, who came to the capital, Algiers, to make official contact. In a speech, Mr. Tebboune said he discussed many issues with Mr. Macron on bilateral cooperation and ways to develop relations between the two countries in a constructive way, hoping for encouraging results. Information has it that Mr. Macron arrived in Algeria for a first visit in 5 years. Investigation revealed that Mr. Macron's visit will be oriented towards young people and a future in the North African country, while he will meet with young Algerian entrepreneurs before heading to the northern city of Oran. On the delegation of a 3-day visit was being accompanied by a 90-member delegation, including ministers, business representatives, and experts in the history of the two countries. A man held in Iran for nearly 5 years on spying charges before being released alongside Nazanin is said to run the London Marathon. Mr. Anoshe had always hoped to run the marathon while serving a jail sentence on charges he denied. Investigation revealed that the 68-year-old Mr. Ashori from Lewisham, southeast London, was released in March. He said he will run for Amnesty International and All Stage International. It will be recalled that the British-Iranian dual national was arrested in August 2017 while visiting his elderly mother in Tehran and was later convicted of allegedly spying for Israel's intelligence service, Mossad, despite having lived in the UK for 20 years. Two women as Mr. George Foreman over allegations of the former heavyweight boxing champion sexually abused them when they were teenagers in the 1970s. The women filed separate lawsuits in Los Angeles County's Superior Court, alleging Mr. Foreman began grooming them when they were just 8 and 9 years old and later raped them at age 15 and 16. The 73-year-old Mr. Foreman has denied the allegations and called them an extortion attempt in a statement to the Post. The women, both now in the early 60s, filed a suit under the pseudonyms. And here again are the highlights of the word at noon. The Nigerian government has signed a memorandum of understanding with Israeli and Japanese companies to commence assembling and manufacturing of electric vehicles in Nigeria. The son of a Tanzanian state minister has been fined after he was accused of ramming cars last week and allegedly bragging about his father's influence. A man held in Iran for nearly 5 years on spying charges before being released alongside Nazanin is said to run the London Marathon. Two women are suing Mr. George Foreman for allegations that the former heavyweight boxing champion sexually abused them when they were teenagers in the 70s. And that was the word at noon, edited by Olushola Egbedofo and delivered by Moturayo Ayigbayo. In today's news talk, Oluwatoyin Yusuf of our news desk makes a survey of the federal government's institutions in Osun State and the values added to the social and economic development since the state creation in 1991. It is second in the series of news talk marking 31st anniversary of the Osun State creation in 1991.
Prior to the creation of the state in August 1991, anything an indigenous of Osun had to do as regards civil and public service took place in Ibadan, capital of the old Oyo state. Students who had issues with their ordinary level examinations and results must go to WAEC office at Ijokodo, also in Ibadan. With the creation of Osun, however, the state began to have a soon presence of the federal government. The West African Examinations Council, WAEC, and the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, opened offices in the state. About a decade later, the National Examinations Council, NECO also followed suit. Osun State began to receive corps members from the National Youth Service Corps for orientation. The federal government had established the NYSC orientation camp in the state. Going further, military and paramilitary outfits added presence to the age-long engineering construction regiment with the coming of the zonal headquarters, Zone 11 of the police and mobile police college. Needless to say that the state had earlier got its own police command. The Nigerian Air Force has established a base in the state with another one being constructed. Virtually all paramilitary organizations have their presence in the state. The Federal Road Safety Corps, Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, the Immigration Service, the Nigeria Customs, and the Correctional Service. Osun has its own branch of the Central Bank of Nigeria, while the Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation constructed a mega station in the state. In the area of judiciary, the federal government has set up a federal high court, while the state also boasts of the presence of the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC), with its office in the state capital. The establishment of the Nigerian Television Authority (NTA) station, the Federal Road Corporation of Nigeria (FRCN), and the News Agency of Nigeria is a pointer to huge media presence of the federal government in Osun State. In the aspect of education, Osun has the almighty Obafemi Awolowo University, though established 29 years before the state was created. Soon after its creation, the Federal Polytechnic Ede followed, and now the state also has the Federal University of Medical Sciences in Ila and the Federal College of Education in Iwo. Almost all the agencies and parastatals of the government have offices in the state. 30 years on, Osun State has continued to grow and will continue to grow.
That news talk by Oluwatoyin Yusuf surveyed the federal government presence in the state and the values added to the state's socio-economic growth. The second in the series of news talks celebrating the 31st anniversary of Osun State creation was written and presented by Oluwatoyin Yusuf of our television news. For more about us, you can visit www.osbcng.org. Thanks for listening. Good afternoon.
It's entertaining, it's educating, really informative, qualitative news as it breaks. It's OSBC Radio 2, 104.5 FM. Numero uno south of the Sahara, voice of the West.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa rahmatullahi. Ọmọ Mẹ̀dínà. Mo kí yín gbogbo èèyàn pátápátá. Àwọn tí wọ́n jọ lólùfẹ́ orin tiwa. Ìkẹ́ Ọlọ́run mi àtọ́lá tó kún kẹ́kẹ́. Àlàáfíà tó pọ̀ àtòrè tuntun. Iṣẹ́ tẹ̀ ń ṣe máa díṣẹ́ ni mo tọrọ. Èyí làdúrà tí mo fẹ́ ṣe fún gbogbo olólùfẹ́ ìrẹsà láti pátápátá. Ẹ̀gbọ́n náà kí ló yẹ ká fi ṣèkóná ara wa? Àdúrà ló yẹ ká fi ṣèkóná ara wa. Àní kí ló yẹ ká fi ṣèkóná ara wa? Àdúrà ló yẹ ká fi ṣèkóná ara wa. Kẹ́yìn máa yàn kú o. Káwa máa ṣàìsàn. Kẹ́yìn máa yàn kú o. Káwa máa ṣàìsàn. Kọ́pọlọ yín má dàrú o. Káwa máa bùkì jẹ. Kọ́pọlọ yín má dàrú o. Káwa máa bùkì jẹ. Kẹ́yìn má ṣẹ̀sín o. Káwa máa máa mọ̀ ṣí. Àní kẹ́yìn má ṣẹ̀sín o. Káwa máa máa mọ̀ ṣí. Gbogbo nǹkan tá ń torí ẹ̀ yọ̀ yìí. Kó má ṣe yọ̀ wá ṣubú o. Ọlọ́mọ ẹ̀ wá ń wèrè. Gbogbo nǹkan tá ń torí ẹ̀ yọ̀ yìí. Kó má ṣe yọ̀ wá ṣubú o. Àní mo ní kí ló yẹ ká fi ṣèkóná ara wa. Àdúrà ló yẹ ká fi ṣèkóná ara wa. Mo ní kí ló yẹ ká fi ṣèkóná